So the last thing we learned about is that Daniel is thrown into the lion's den. We spoke about the two opinions of how many lions were in the den. One opinion is that there were 10 lions there, and the other opinion is that there was over 1,400 lions there. And yeah, we pointed out that it's a hole in the ground. Now, I wanted to actually check this up. I didn't have a chance. But lions do have some kind of a cave or dens where they live in, but for sure not those amounts. And I never heard of a pride of lions that is that amount of lions, and not even close to that. If I understand correctly, like a large pride could be 30, 40 lions. But more than that, I've never heard of such a thing. I mean, this is not on the wild. It's not a pride. It's a private collection, so maybe that makes sense. But what's understood is that it's in the ground, and what the way it's understood, we'll see now, the next pasuk, that it's basically one entrance into the ground, one hole, and underneath it was a huge empty area, and that's where the lions were, and that's where Daniel was thrown into. Yes? That doesn't make sense to me. As we'll see, what happens now is after they throw him into the lion's den, so just if you're familiar with the Machanayim books, the picture is always Daniel sitting, and looks like a nice cage and a nice zoo. He's sitting with his towers and he's davening, and the lions are sitting around him. So according to the pshat, the way it seems to me, it was a dark dungeon, basically, maybe natural cave, maybe a man-made cave, but it was definitely underground, and there was only one entrance. And now what we're up to now in Pasuk Yitches, they brought a large stone, a boulder, the suma salpum guma, and they put it on the entrance to the pit. The chasmei malko beiskazei, this king sealed it with his seal. Uve iskas rav revanoi, with the seal of all the sarim, all the ministers. That no one should change their mind. What the Mefarshim explain is like this: that Daniel. Daniel was thrown in, but we know that the king Daryavesh and the Sardim and the ministers were at odds. Daryavesh did not want to throw him in, and the ministers did. Yeah? No, but it looks like you see grass on the outside and everything looks very nice. The pictures that I'm talking about, that I'm familiar with. You see that it's like a whole nice area all around it. Just a cage, there's like a fence around it. Al-Kapanim. So, what the chef no? What the chef So what happens is that as Daryavesh and the Sarim, they're both concerned. Daryavesh is afraid that the Sarim are going to somehow add to the danger. Which means, and this is a very interesting thing, the Al-Sheikh says that the Sardims, that the king was afraid, and he said that even though Hashem can protect Daniel from the lions, but when it comes to a Baal Bchira, to a person that has choice, that's a lot harder. Which implies that these Goyim had some kind of freedom of choice, and they could make that decision to come to the pit and see that Daniel's still alive, and throw things at him and kill him from above. And that's why Daryavesh wanted to protect him. And the Sardim were afraid that maybe Daryavesh is going to come and somehow slap out Daniel and save him. So that's why, so for both of them to be protected, Kivyachol, that to agree to what was supposed to be the psak, they're putting him into the dungeon, into the lions. They're sealing him with this big boulder on top. Both have the seal on top of it, and this way, no one's going to change it. No one can mix it. Now, the lotion that it says is that he's not going to change his mind. The los hishnitzu b'Daniel, it says that is a svara to say that Daniel himself is not going to change his mind. The simple pshat is that they're not going to change their mind about Daniel, but as if to say that Daniel himself might change his mind, and he might come and tell the king, you know something, I promise, or now I'm not going to daven anymore. As we know, that was the whole thing in the first place. So it says that the king said, I know Daniel's not changing his mind, so that's why I'd rather put the boulder and protect him from the Sardim than maybe hope that he's going to call me and try to save himself. All right, so he's in the pit, he's in the dungeon, in the lion's den. Daryavesh doesn't know what's happening. No one knows what's going on because it's covered with the pit with the big stone on top of it. So Daryavesh goes home. Azal Malko Lahechle. He goes home. Uvos tvos. These words are brought down in Gemara in different places. Uvos tvos means he went to sleep hungry. The dachavon lohanil kadamoi. They did not bring him the dachavon. Vishinte nada saloy, and he did not sleep. But what's this dachavon? So the simple pshat is they didn't bring him his meal. Usually they would bring him a fancy meal, they wouldn't bring him. But then the Farshim say that he had al derech Achashverosh. Achashverosh every night had different psulas coming to visit him. So Daryavesh also had a system where every night they would come and dance and make his night more entertaining. But that night he was such a bad mood. He said, "No, I can't entertain myself, indulge myself." You're looking to be a Daryavesh king, huh? I said I'm not, but look, he did for Daniel. He wasn't able to do it. He decided that for such a thing, I can't beat myself to do such a thing, and I'm going to stay hungry. I'm going to deny myself all my pleasures. And he couldn't fall asleep because he felt a real loyal advisor. Daniel was so good to him, and he felt like really tricked, and his arm was twisted into throwing him into the pit, and he was completely ace-mensch, even though he was hoping that at the same time Daniel will be saved. So it says over here a fascinating Midrash. It says it's actually a machlokes. One opinion is that Chavakuk Hanavi is living in Eretz Yisrael at the time this is happening in Bavel. Chavakuk Hanavi, who had the field and he had workers, and he brought with him his supper to feed his workers. And suddenly Hashem tells him that Chavakuk, you have to go to Bavel right now. Daniel is hungry. I want you to bring the supper that you have with you for your workers. Bring the food with you to Bavel. So Chavakuk says, Eibishter, I'm happy to go, but how can I get there? I'm in Yisrael, he's in Bavel. So the Malach said, no problem. He came over to him, he grabbed him by his chup, that's what it says. He got Chavakuk by his chup, and he schlepped him all the way to Bavel. How did Chavakuk have a chup? It says tzitzis roishi. Tzitzis roishi means the hair on the front of your head. So maybe, he was a nazir. That's a good answer. He was a nazir, and that's how the Malach schleps him. He said, I'm nazir, he said. Oh, he's in mourning for the Beis HaMikdash. That can also be another good answer. Okay. Or you can just say that he had a chup. That we can't say that. No, chas v'shalom. Sphere, no, it wasn't Sphere. We're going to see soon it was Pesach. Actually, I'm mixing up maybe. No. I think that's what it was. I think there's such an opinion. Maybe I'm mixing it up. Either way, Chavakuk Hanavi comes with the food, and he brings down, and miraculously he enters the pit. I mean, the whole thing is a miracle, but there's a seal on top, he can't get in. And he enters, and they bring Chavakuk and Daniel bring, and they eat together, and they learn together. Chavakuk is a Navi, one of the Treyasar. If we get the card, then you go through the Nevi'im and learn the Mobile Peh, you learn about Chavakuk Hanavi as well. So that's one opinion, and the opinion is that Chavakuk is strongly connected to Daniel, because Chavakuk famously said that the whole Taryag mitzvahs are based on one mitzvah, the mitzvah of believing in Hashem, which is connected to davening. So since Chavakuk made a big deal about Amunah and davening, so Daniel, who's also having Mesiras Nefesh to daven, it makes sense that they should bring together. No, that's someone else. I don't think that's Chavakuk. I think that's Ido Hanavi. I think you're mixing up. Okay, could be wrong. A second opinion is that it was not Chavakuk, it was Yecheskel Hanavi. Yecheskel Hanavi, according to this, he was brought through the Malach, and he gave them meal. So here there's a very, again, it's a tzchok hagoral, that the king, the Daryavesh, who is the king, the superpower of the entire world, and he has whatever he wants, and he goes to sleep hungry, he's not eating that night, and Daniel, that's a prisoner, that's locked in the dungeon, which al-pitava, he's supposed to be torn to pieces by the lions, there's nothing but to eat, and he has a whole lavish meal. So how Hashem makes things happen that you think that he's going to have what he has, and he's going to be has, and Hashem does whatever he wants. The workers? They didn't have their food. I wonder myself also, what Chavakuk's workers, what happened with them? Okay. Pasuk Chav, Beidayin Malka Bishparporo Yikum Benogo. The king woke up as soon as it got light outside, and he quickly went to the bird. So the agreement was to throw him into the pit, but for how long? So first of all, it says over here, bishparporo. It's an interesting word, besides that it's not a regular word, but we know there's something called the big aleph beis and the small aleph beis, right? In the Chumash we have the big aleph beis and the small aleph. Throughout the Tanakh, you have, so the big aleph is found where? Anybody knows? Adam, where Adam? In Divrei Hayomim, where's the small aleph? Vayikra. Where's the big beis? Ferocious. Where's the small beis? Where's the small bays? Small bays? Relief koiso? No, that's the cuff. That's a small cuff, I think, right? That's a small cuff. If you look in the back of the Rambam La'am, Sefer Ahava, he brings the list of the whole aleph is big and small. But this pasuk, this word shparparta, it's two pays. One is a big one, one's a small one. So you have the big pay and the small pay in the same word. But it says that he woke up in the morning. So the Farshim point out that usually when you can't fall asleep the whole night, so then as soon as it gets morning time, that's when you fall asleep. Right? That happens by many bochum. I couldn't sleep the whole night. But comes the morning, but then I can fall asleep. But it makes sense because, eventually it gets to you and eventually you fall asleep. But here it says that Daryavesh couldn't sleep. And when it came light outside, he didn't sleep. And he got out of bed and he runs to the bird. Huh? He had an all-nighter, yeah? He wanted to go to sleep, but Pasha couldn't fall asleep. And, oh, okay. Okay. Pasuk Chaf Aleph, Uchemikreve legubo leDaniel, and he comes closer to the bird where Daniel is. Bekol Otziv, Daniel Bekol Otziv is the ape. So the Daryavesh is very nervous, and cryingly he calls out, Shmulik. What do you say over there? Shmulik. Onei Malka v'Omar leDaniel, and the king calls out, and he says, Daniel Oved Elokach Chaya. Daniel, the servant of the living God. Elokach the ant polach lebisdiro, the God that you always davened in. Was he able to save you from the lions? So he's coming closer and he wants to know what's happening. So even though there's a big boulder on the pit and Daniel's all the way down there, nevertheless, I guess somehow he was able to call out and he's saying, was Hashem able to save you? Now Mefarshim discuss over here what's his question. He himself, before Daniel fell into the pit, he said Hashem should save you. So they have an interesting question over here, a pshat, that he's asking Daniel, was it the tzchus of davening, was it the mincha alone that was able to save you, or is it the tzchus of all three davenings? Because we know that the mincha is a very special davening, right, Yaakov? Mincha is a favorite davening for many people. Changed your mind. Now why did it become your favorite? So he's asking, is mincha enough to save you, or you have to have the other two? So then the pasuk continues, Chavez, Adayin Daniel Imalka Malel. Daniel hears the voice of the king, so he responds to him and he says, Malka la'ol min chayi. The king should live forever. And here's basically saying, I wish good upon you. Like your ministers were saying that I'm not dominating to you because I don't want good upon you. For sure I want good upon you. You're a good king and I wish you well. And he tells them, Eloki shlach malachi. My king, my God sent a malach. He sent so the malach is hinting to, we'll see in a moment, two malachim. Besides the malachim in the messenger of Chavakuk or Yecheskel, it also means something else. Usgar pumar yevosa. He closed the mouths of the lion. Velo chabluni, and they didn't hurt me. Because I didn't do anything wrong. Towards you also I didn't do anything wrong. So here, there are two opinions, Bechlal, what happened when Daniel fell into the pit. One opinion is that when Daniel fell into the pit, the lions came standing around him like little puppies, and they were wagging their tails, and they were like his best friends, and they were just looking at him to be his friend. That's one opinion. A second opinion is that they came with ferocious roars. Not roar, they didn't roar actually, but they came with the gnashing their teeth. They wanted to chas v'sholem attack Daniel. But what happened was Hashem sent a malach in the shape of a bigger lion, and that bigger lion stood next to Daniel, and the other lions saw this big lion protecting Daniel, so therefore they all backed off. That's a cooler one. But this story of this detail is brought down in Tanya. Perek of Dal Alter Rebbe over there learns like the pshat, like the first pshat. Alter Rebbe in Tanya brings it, which is some Mefarshim say this from the Zohar, that really naturally animals are afraid of people. And naturally, when a lion sees a person, a lion is terrified from the person. And Elamai, the reason why B'derech Klal, if today any person will be alone with a lion in the lion's den, Al Piteva, the lion will attack him, is because the person doesn't look like a person anymore. If you have the tzelem elikim, you have the tzelem, the vision of a person, then the animal sees you and he's terrified. But when the person looks like an animal, then the animal says, another animal, so what am I afraid of? So this is the This is the Beard and Tanya explaining what happened with what happened with Daniel, and according to that, they didn't even try attacking Farkert; they were bebittled him, which obviously reminds everybody of the famous story with which other tzaddik and the lion. The Eirachaim HaKodesh. The Eirachaim HaKodesh has a similar story. The Eirachaim HaKodesh was traveling and there was a caravan, and they were traveling. They were officially agreed to stop for Shabbos. They didn't stop for Shabbos. Him and his servant stopped for Shabbos. What's the question? I didn't go wrong against you, Your Majesty. So we explained before that according to Daniel, I didn't do anything wrong against the king because the king didn't really, according to Daniel's understanding, according to this pshat, the king didn't only ask for any new bakashas, and he wasn't asking for something new. So the story of the Eirachaim HaKodesh is where the Eirachaim HaKodesh, so he stays for Shabbos, and then a lion appears, and the Eirachaim, with the famous story, the Eirachaim HaKodesh shows him his bris. And when the lion sees the bris of the Eirachaim HaKodesh, he sits down and he's calm. And then after Shabbos, the Eirachaim HaKodesh gets onto the lion, and the lion gallops and goes back to wherever the rest of the group. And from then on, they respected the Eirachaim HaKodesh. What happened with the Eirachaim's servant?
The guy was watching behind.
So the Eirachaim gave him a settle and told him, hold the settle and walk. And then eventually he had Kvitzas HaDerech, and he ended up joining the caravan as well. So we have this concept is over. I don't know why in that story specifically you have to show him the bris, but I guess that we're not the people to measure. But according to the simple pshat, Daniel was so holy, on his face you can see the kedusha, and the Eirachaim HaKodesh, the kedusha was only visible through the bris. It says that he saw his face. In Tanya, it says he saw him his face. Tanya he brings out that's the pshat. Okay, so this is what's going on inside the pit. And they're having this conversation, and Daniel is telling the King Daryavesh what happened to him. He had a good night, and he was saved over here. And the Chavakuk came to be with him, or Yecheskel, and everything is fine. And then Pasuk of Daled Beidai in Malchus Sagi Te'eva Loi. The king was in a very good mood, so happy. Oh, Baruch Hashem, he was saved. Ula Daniel Omar Lahalis Min Abayr, and then he announced that we should slap out Daniel. And then. Daniel Amar Lansoko min Guba, V'husok Daniel min Guba. Daniel was swept out of the pit. They found he was not hurt in any kind of way, which means that in addition to not biting him, and lion can also give a zetz, and that didn't happen to him either. It also says that they did not roar. I said before that they roared. It was wrong. They did not roar because the roaring of a lion is so loud that can cause a person to have hurt his eardrums. Another interesting thing the Mefarshim say is that the lion's breath is very, very bad. I never smelled the breath of animals' breath specifically. You go to a zoo, you go to the places, it smells like animals all the time, but it has not such a pleasant smell. But apparently, it's with the mouse and the lion, yes. So apparently the Mefarshim say the lion's breath smelled very bad, and over here they kept their mouths shut, so he shouldn't smell bad. So mamish, no nezek whatsoever happens to Daniel. Now, how does he schlep him out? It doesn't say. He said he called people to schlep him out, and they schlep. How so? Either through putting a rope down, because again it's a bird, you can't just climb out. So they somehow they were able to schlep him out of there. And then the hamshach of the story, which Mefarshim don't really explain this well. The pasuk says, "Va'amar Malka," the king then commanded, "V'haisiv guvraya ilech." They brought the people the acholu kartzoidi Daniel that had snitched on Daniel. That they said that he had davened. Ulegoy varyavaser emoy, and they threw them into the pit. Inun b'neihoin u'nesheihoin, them, their sons and their wives. They didn't reach the floor of the dungeon till the lions seized them, and they broke all their bones. So there's really a double question. The first question is, why are they being killed? And second, in addition to that, why their wives and children? What's the justification of the king to throw in these, so to speak, innocent people, and for sure their wives and children? So there's an answer, a Mefarshim answer, but it only explains why they threw in the people themselves. There's two answers that they say. One answer is that when they saw Daniel healthy and alive, they said, the lions were not hungry. That's why they didn't bite Daniel. So the king said, if they're not hungry, they're not going to hurt you either. Throw them into the dungeon, and when they came in, they were killed. But that's also, it's a bit, that's a reason to kill someone, because someone just, like, if someone challenges a miracle, so you're going to throw them into the dungeon. I think it's a bit much. And for sure, how does that explain their wives and their children?
No, because if you're going to kill them, their wives and children, then they hate them.
Oh, so you have to kill them. When you assassinate the king, you have to kill all of his family, so no one should take revenge.
That's the Russian Revolution. They kill entire.
Yeah, in many revolutions it's like that. When you want to kill the enemy, you kill his whole family, so no one should come back to get you. That could be an answer. I think it should be shvach, but it could be. A second explanation that the Mefarshim say is that these people were be'etzem moeded b'malchus, because they're trying to take away the king's advisor. Now it was found out that the king's advisor was sincere, which is really a bit strange. How was that found out? Because Hashem provided a miracle. But that's the way the Mefarshim want to say, that because you see that he's sincere, that Hashem protected him, so their snitching against him was wrong, and therefore they were made in the Malchus, so they were chayav misa, which still doesn't justify, in my opinion, my understanding, the sons and the wives. A person's chayav misa, makesh.
It's like, what's this kind of family that doesn't get...
Base of tinas.
Yeah, it's white, it's whatever goes...
Yeah, okay, that's already a long stretch. That's a long stretch. Bilga, the whole Mishmar had to, but not Ad Kedei Kach. They suffered a little bit, not Ad Kedei Kach that they were killed. Akoponim, and here's where the Medrash, Seder, but this is getting killed. I mean, I think it's a big deal. They can punish him. Okay, listen. But here they make the cheshbon. How do we get to the large number? They say like this, because there was 122 people. If you remember, there was 120 countries. Each one had a governor. Then there were the 3 people on top, which 2 of them were Daniel's, with Daniel. So obviously this is not part of it. So it's 122 altogether. Now it says, B'nei Yenu Nishem, their sons and their wives. So it should have said their wives and their children. By saying their son and their wives, Chazal learned that it means to say, just like they had one wife, they had one child. So B'meila 122 times 3 equals 366. So 322. 122. 366. And he says that when they have Chacham had a tradition that when each person fell, 4 lions attacked him, and each one schlepped a different part of his body and tore him to pieces. So 366 times 4 equals 1,464. It has to be, right? We're not doing the math, but if you do the math, see if it works out. So that's how we got to that number. And the Chachamim are madgish 1,464 lions over there. It doesn't say if lions or lionesses. I'm not sure if they were all male or female. But Derech Klal, we know that the female lions are the ones that usually do the hunting. But they point out that they were not fed for 3 days before, so that's why they were very, very hungry. And it says that they seized them in the middle of the ear as they're falling into the dungeon. So I don't know if it was one after the other, and it was boom, 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 jumping on top of each other. 4, each one snatching a piece and tearing them to pieces. I think it's very gory and ugly and scary to watch. But some Bachim like watching these things. Yeah. Eidim Zaymin. Yeah, so I was thinking of that. They try doing it, so that could be an example. Eidim Zaymin try killing, so they get the punishment that they try doing with someone else. You can say that that's the reason, but even then, not the wives and children, only the people themselves. So okay, so you want to say the whole family has to get punished. Okay, but we're trying to give a Torah explanation how this should make sense. I don't have a Torah explanation. It was Daryavesh, but what's Daryavesh's justification? So you're saying you don't need a justification. He's a king, he's a goyish a king, he just kills whatever randomly. I have a hard time with that. I don't like that. Even when the Torah describes an event, it has to all fit with Torah. Many Mefarshim, when they even learn the behavior of goyim, they learn it all in a way that should fit with Torah, should stream with Torah. And here also, there has to stream with Torah, and I don't know how. Even on these pieces, there's the Mefarshim, like sometimes they have to pull them over here. There's a piece that I didn't say before. It's like the whole people to explain what was the Daryavesh's cheshbon. It was a Torah cheshbon. All right, Pasuk Chavav. Beidayin, after this, Daryavesh Malach Ksav L'chola Memaya Umaya V'Lishanaya. He then writes a letter to all of the nations in the world. He died in B'chol Ara. throughout the world, Shalom Chayin Yesgei, peace upon you. So here this pasuk is brought down to Masechta Megillah, where it says that Daryavesh sent a letter to the entire world, which means that he was the Balabas over the whole world. However, in the Gemara it says, no, it's incorrect, because he was only a ruler over 120. And we know that his son, whatever it was, the next generation, Achashverosh was a ruler of 127 countries, which means that 7 countries he did not own. So either they didn't exist then, Ukraine broke away from Russia only afterwards, so they were still part of the first country, or you can say that even though he didn't own them, but he was able to send them a message. I mean, definitely, even if he didn't own them, he was obviously the superpower, because he owns 120 countries. And he sends them in the letter, and he says, Bin Kodamai Sim Ta'im, I hereby declare, Divachol Sholton Malchusi throughout my kingdom, Levin Zoyin Vidochalin Min Kodam Elikedi Daniel, everyone should fear, everyone should honor the God of Daniel, Dihu Elako Chayo V'Kayom La'olmin, he's the living God and he exists forever, Umalchusei Dilos Hischabel V'Sholtane Yatzoifa, and his kingdom will never be destroyed forever. And he's basically saying that you were trying to protect me. My ministers were Kivyachol protecting me, that my kingdom should last forever. That's why everyone should daven to me. Now I see from this story how powerful the Eibusher is. He's the real powerful God. No one else can have a kingdom lasting forever. His kingdom lasts forever. And he's basically telling the whole world to fear Hashem, but he's not telling the whole world to become Jews like by the Kuzari. He's not saying that from now on we'll also be Jewish. He himself remained a Goy, and so to his son-in-law, Kodesh, and afterwards Achashverosh rolled over the Avodah Zarah. But he said, in addition to the Eibishter, in addition to our gods, also the Eibishter, which is a Lakoda, Lekaya, brought down Chassidus all the time. I don't recall Chassidus bringing a mashal from over here, but it fits very well what Chassidus says, that the Goyim believe in Hashem, and they also believe in other Getchkas. So here he's basically telling the world, make sure to realize that Daniel's God is a true God, he's a powerful God, and we should accept him as on top of everybody else, even though we'll continue worshiping the other gods. He continues describing the Eibishter, Mishezev umatzil v'ovid osin v'simhin b'shmayo v'ara. He protects and he saves and he performs miracle in the heaven and the earth. The Sheziv l'Daniel min yad Aryavasa. And he saved Daniel from the hands of the lions until now. This is the Ksav that he wrote. Now, the last pasuk of the Perek is the pasuk says, V'Daniel deno hatzlach b'malchus Daryavesh, over Malchus Kodesh Parsa. Daniel was successful in the kingdom of Daryavesh, which was only 1 year. And after Daryavesh dies, then Daryavesh's son-in-law, Kodesh, takes over, and Daniel is a successful minister in Kodesh's kingdom as well. So there's a big machlokes what happens afterwards in Daniel's life. And some say he passed away close to the age of 100. Some say he passed away right now. And a fascinating thing now that most of you probably never heard is that we know that in the Megillah says, Vayomer Memuchan. Vayomer Memuchan. Memuchan is the one that told Achashverosh to kill Vashti, because he said people have to be in charge of their homes. So there's a Medrash that says Memuchan is Daniel. He is the one that told Achashverosh to kill Vashti. And you know why? Because Daniel had married a woman from Paras, and she spoke Parsis, and he wanted to speak Yiddish at home, Lashon Kodesh, and she didn't. And because he was having this fight with her, he told Achashverosh, kill Vashti, and make this law that from now on everyone has to speak the language of their husbands, and this way his wife will speak Lashon Kodesh like him. That's a very interesting opinion that Memuchan is really Daniel. There's another opinion that Hasoch, who is another member, another person that lives in the Megillah, is also Daniel. Some say it's the same person, a different person. And what happened to him? Some say Haman killed him. Some say the Haman is the one that killed Hasoch. He kicked him and he killed him. He's older. Some say he didn't die then. He died later. Kicked him, it says. And whatever. There's different opinions, and there's 2 other big stories that happened with Daniel also, which I guess we'll say for next time.